Club United lost 4-0 at home to Exeter City this afternoon.
Love it.
Open wide for some soccer!
Happy Halloween, everybody. Welcome to the DM35 podcast. We will be your therapy session, I assume, for the next hour or so. Talk to you about last week's activities and answering any of your questions. We're really keen for as many of you to get as involved as possible. If you're watching it on Twitter or Facebook or YouTube, you can always add questions. Or if you don't have access to that and you're just on Twitter, just email or just send a message to us directly, and we'll happily sort of have a chat about what you're putting up. So it'll be great to see everybody and have a chat with us today, all the way in Grimsby. The only one, Bruce. Is it still there? Yeah.
Cleethorpes, mate, but yes.
As well,
we've got no Grimsby, but we'll go with the description.
Well, then,
it's still here, it's still standing, mate. Yeah.
If you're a resident of Cleethorpes, can we at least go? What a loser! You got smashed 8-0. Go on, Grimsby. In the Nel Classico, we'll touch on that later.
Not a very time way to start, is it? you know how sensitive I am.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But you know, these Meggies residents got absolutely battered. But there we go. I don't know if is this the friendly rivalry? I don't know. Tom is here as well in his Hibernian shirt. Tom, how are you?
Yeah, good. Cheers.
How is Portsmouth?
Wet.
Yeah, you and me both, my friend. And also down here in the southeast, in a house he can't afford, like everybody else. Mike, how are you?
I'm all right, mate. How are you?
Sorry, I'm casting dispersions on your incomings. Then apologies, but everything okay with you?
Yeah, all good, mate. I won't worry. It's not my house anyway. So
I mean, as long as they know you're there, I guess it's probably.
Yeah, I've got to be quiet. I don't think they know I'm here.
Yeah, exactly. So, gentlemen, we've had 2 games this week, and who would have thunk it? We've come away pointless from Wealdstone and from Notts County. We will start as we mean to go on, at least sort of, time-wise. We'll start with Wealdstone. Bruce, you were there. You made the long trip down. Mike, you were there as well. The not-so-long trip, and myself as well. This season just seems to be turning into driving through unknown places of London suburbia, left, right, through every terrace street, which looks exactly the same, only to get to a ground with 3 rows of seats and then, walk away unhappy at the moment. That's mine anyway. Bruce, I will go to you because you're the one that had to, endure the journey down and up. What did you make of it, and how did you think the game went?
I thought it was flat. The whole thing just felt flat. The performance on the pitch was flat. I thought the stands were very quiet. Fans never really got into it. I know that sometimes they said, the people on the pitch have to give them a bit to get into it, but it just felt, it just really was a strange atmosphere and a strange performance that you didn't really see coming with the high intensity that we've been playing at. It was just, it looked in isolation just like a complete off day. We just didn't really create a lot. All right, we had a couple of, the header that Waterfall had that hit the keeper. I think that was a fair description because it was about 2 yards out or 5 yards out, and it was literally straight at the keeper, a bullet header, and it just sort of that. But we really just this last. I know we'll come on to the other game later, but we're just struggling to create chances with the current way we're setting up or the personnel we've got out there. It's interesting, but it was not the best, mate. I don't know what you made of it.
Well, I'll be controversial because obviously I've only seen the games down here. So I've been to Maidenhead, I've been to Woking, I've been to Wealdstone and Bromley. And aside from probably Woking, and again, a game where we didn't create too much, I don't think our performances have been of a table-topping team. I thought Maidenhead was really poor. I thought Bromley was poor. we got our arse handed there. Woking, it was really tight, and I think they're the best opposition. Certainly I've seen us play, and we nicked it at the end. And Wealdstone didn't seem much of an anomaly in that case. I haven't been lucky enough to watch all the other games. Maybe I'm a bit too over dramatic. I just want to play that out there. Mike, what did you think?
No, I think you're right. I mean, I've seen the same games you have, Alex, other than I'm lucky enough that I went back home and saw Dover, so I have seen us play quite well. I think Bruce is quite right. The word when I was watching the game on Tuesday was just slow and flat. We had a lot of possession that was sort of safe possession, so we didn't really do too much with it when we had it, and we just moved the ball slow, and it all just looked a bit flat on and off the pitch. I think we had 4 shots on target, which sort of shows you we weren't really creating much. 2 good chances with Waterfall and Sousa, which could have changed the game. But I think when they scored their goal, I think they sort of sat back a bit and we just played the ball in front of their midfield and didn't create anything really.
Tom, do you have anything to say on it as well? Because I'm not sure. I don't think you were there at that one, but you've been to a few games where I don't necessarily think that the levels have been what I'd expect of a tabletop inside, but Hayward will take it.
I was a bit bored of all the we're crap talk. We've been top. We're third, a point off the lead or whatever it is. I'm kind of like, yeah, we're doing all right. We'll get over it.
I mean,
right. See you next week then.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. I'll take him out, shall I? We'll bring Shane in now. Look, I can understand that, and it looks maybe we've got 2 different teams. Maybe we've got a team that can play exceptionally well at home. I have nothing to reference it against. I can only see the highlights, but I can hear. I'm listening to it, but Maidenhead, I don't think was a good performance, and I think you even agreed at the time, Tom. It wasn't a stellar one. It was just a team that were high. Bromley, I thought was a bit of an anomaly. I thought we played okay, but the conditions went against us. But again, didn't create too much. Woking, we didn't create much, yesterday on Tuesday we didn't as well. Maybe it's an away thing. Maybe we've got to work out how to play better away from home against some of these teams. And albeit they are smaller teams who are more likely to sit back and defend a bit. And the one team that did come at us was Woking, and that gave us the opportunity to take advantage. Bruce,
I think what we've got to bear in mind as well is that we've been top of the league for a few weeks now, or right up there. And these smaller teams are going to naturally raise their game against the likes of us, Wrexham, Stockport, people like that. They're going to run the socks off. I mean, at Maidenhead, we didn't play well, but I think you commented on the pod we did that day after that. Their players collapsed to the floor at the end of the game. The amount of effort that they put into it. You don't see that in a general Saturday game. It's not. It's more of a cup thing than it's. So it is the. Is it the old cup final thing? But I do think that at the moment, I think McAtee and Taylor had struck up a really good understanding with the others working around them, and I just don't think it's clicking at the moment with them 2 missing. I think we're struggling to find the right combination to cause teams problems. On Tuesday, we were in that side bit, sort of round the corner from you, and we were probably level with the edge of the penalty area as far as the town fans could go before that little gate thing. And in the first half, we had sort of Sousa was our way, and I thought the two wingers, Sousa and Bapaga, they just struggled to get past the men. I mean, yesterday, which we'll come on to, Sousa, his dribbling was excellent, but we just couldn't beat the men. And they got to when they did get to the byline, we didn't deliver. And when you looked up, we often just had Lenny in the box. We weren't getting the bodies in the box. That I think we really missed Clifton on Tuesday. I don't know what you two think, or what you guys think, but I think we missed his energy. And yesterday, when poor old Sears went off, you could see how important Hurst thinks, because it would have been a natural to drop Clifton to right back, but he left him wide left up further forward, which to me shows how important I think he values his work rate up and down the pitch in that position.
It's a good one, actually. So, talking about the match, penalty. You sound like you might have had a half decent view of it, Bruce. Was it a pen? Was it an overeager ref?
I thought it was soft. I thought it was a coming together, and I thought it was a soft penalty.
I certainly
And
heard.
the guy, it was very similar to what the penalty the guy actually took, which was pretty shit as well. It was appalling.
Yeah,
I
certainly heard boots click because you were that close to the pitch. I heard like the boots clicking but that doesn't mean it's a penalty. It just means you don't even know who was the one that hit who.
If someone says it's a soft penalty, that means it's a penalty, but they are a bit annoyed, basically, that it's a penalty. Sorry, Bruce.
I don't agree with that.
If you say it's soft, that means you're acknowledging that it was a foul, but you begrudge the fact that
there was no foul. There was contact. There was contact, and the guy there
was contact. Did he get the ball?
No, but two players can run together, shoulder to shoulder, and if a guy goes over, it's not a free kick, is it?
I got to disagree with you there, Tom. That's not the law. But I understand what you mean. Mike, what were you going to say? Because you said
I'm not saying every contact is a penalty, but I think when people say a foul is soft, it essentially means that you almost agree that it's a penalty, but you're annoyed that it was, if it was the other way around, you'd be like, yeah, it's a penalty every day of the week. But, I think I haven't actually seen the incident. I could go back and quickly look at it, but.
I thought that'd be part of your research. Come in. Some defense to the referee that doesn't know the law says you can't hold on to the ball for 6 seconds.
I think that football has a real bad sort of trait in that it uses excuses to excuse its own downfall. So if you've had a bad game, it's not your fault. It's the referee's fault. We had injuries. It's something else. We in football we always find excuses for our own faults rather than look inwardly and say, actually, I made a mistake there, or we had a bad performance there. And saying a penalty is soft, I'm not having to go at Bruce, just saying a penalty is soft, I think is a classic example of that. And I think by the sounds of things, on Tuesday night against Wealdstone, we had an off day and we lost. And that is it.
Mike, what did you think? Was it a penalty or not?
Well, didn't we just say that?
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I was a bit closer to it than Bruce. It was never a penalty. Never a penalty. I mean, there was some contact, but it wasn't enough to make him go down. It wasn't anything than you wouldn't expect in a contact sport, which is what football is, a contact sport. I think the problem is sometimes football, we sort of deal with issues in a black and white sort of way, don't we? Either it is or it isn't, and and life and football isn't like that. So I think that's where people think when things are soft, well.
Can someone explain this one then? Because I was in a relatively fortunate position with Mr. Spring in the corner. The linesman told the referee over the headset that the goalkeeper put a cone onto the pitch, and the ref didn't have a word with him nor book him for time wasting. Can anybody work that one out? Because I'm completely perplexed why that was. Maybe his earpiece wasn't working. I don't know. Strange one. Really strange. Tommy, look like you're gearing up to say something then. Do you have anything on that one?
No, I'm going back to find this Wealdstone penalty to see if I think it's a penalty or not.
But it was an odd one. He also apparently admitted to Paul Hurst that he didn't know that there was a 6-second law on holding the ball. So much so that the away fans started counting as he held the ball, which was hilarious.
I think the 6-second rule has actually been done away with and was done away with a long time ago, wasn't it?
It hasn't. No, still active. I think there was because it came in at the same time that if you row with the referee, they move the ball 10 yards forward.
That never actually came in as a law. That was only trialed.
I mean, you're the king of the pedants today. It was still being used in Football League, and it was there, and then it got taken away.
It wasn't being used in Football League. If I remember rightly, it was only used in the League Cup as a trial. So I remember I was a referee at the time, and there was a bloke in our referees association who used to use it in the Boston Saturday League, and they were like, "You're not allowed to do it," and he was like, "I do it anyway."
I don't mind it, but it was being used in Division 1 at the time. I think it was where we were. It was quite
it might have been just trialed in Division 1 then. Either way, it wasn't. For example, it wasn't used in the Premier League.
Anyway, we're getting sidetracked on something that isn't happening and hasn't happened for 15 years.
Was it trialed like those Kraft cheese slices that we used to put in the burgers under the previous regime?
I mean, they should have at least got rid of the old ones instead of keep using them. I mean, it was an odd game. I got to agree with all of you. It felt like it was just an off day, and we didn't create much. Paul Hurst was really upset with the levels that the players were putting in. Obviously, there's been quite a bit of football quite quickly into the season, but Wealdstone, to their credit, and also it was a cracking day out. I thought, Tom, you'd have loved the pin badge table. It was at least 20 yards long. It was immaculate. You could have got any badge you wanted, and all really friendly, no problems. Our flag made its debut, though. I've got to do better with its positioning. It was really poor. I've overestimated as well how big it is.
Yeah, the side on flag doesn't really get a lot of coverage, does it?
No, not really. Especially when there was that massive gap behind the goal where we could have really just stuck it. But maybe if it had been more prominent, we might have come away with a point or so. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed. We didn't create much. It's nice to see Maka go up with a few minutes left for a corner. And obviously, we got to give him credit. However shit the penalty was, he made a save from it. You got to stop him.
He caught it. It was that bad.
Yeah. So, yesterday, Notts County, home end is sold out. Surprised Notts County didn't sell out their end, given it's only a couple of miles down the road, but still nice to see more than 10 men and his dog in the away end. Bruce, what was it like? What were your thoughts? I've got to admit, hands up now, I didn't even listen to this. I was driving back from Euston.
It was better. It was better, but with the same problems. The same end product was a problem. We just looked, as I said earlier, it was further forward. It was similar to the Wealdstone performance, really. We did create a few half chances. Sousa, I think the ones that Hursty mentioned, there was a cracking ball over the top. I'm not sure. I can't remember who played it. It might have been Clifton or Crooks, but it certainly came from our left back attacking towards the Osman, or from that side of the field. Just dropped it over the defender's head, and Sousa let it bounce once or twice, and then really had a bit of a lash at it and put it into the Osmond. And then Lenny had a good bit of skill in the first half, which he cut inside, sort of edge of the penalty area, main stand side, and sort of killed it against the far crossbar on the far side, which were probably our two clearest cut chances. And then in the second half, McAtee and Lenny both had Taylor when he came on, and Lenny both had fairly similar opportunities where they got the ball sort of penalty spot or a little bit wider and sort of spun and hit it. And I think one went wide and one went straight at the... Oh, no, I think Taylor put his over the bar. But we didn't really create a lot, and we were a bit like Mike said the other night. We were still a little bit pedestrian, and they were quite happy. They had 10 men behind the ball, and they were quite happy to let us pass it around like you saw on Tuesday night. Across our back line, we like switching the ball, don't we, from sort of left back to centre back and across to right back. And if you don't move it quickly, you're not going anywhere. But it was a lot better. But I still think we don't look like we've got the right combination or the right personnel at the moment in the final third.
Did anyone else get any thoughts on yesterday? I've really got none. I listened. It sounded quite a heartbreaking performance, and we at least deserved a point. A lot of people were saying that they were disappointed with how Notts County played. They were expecting something bigger and better from them. Mike, what were you going to say?
Well, I mean, I didn't see it myself. I had to rely on John Tonder Missed the first sort of 30 minutes because we was having an argument about how you cut up a pumpkin. So it sounded like we were a lot better. I think with regards to Notts County, I think sometimes in this league you've got to realise you have to stop people playing before you can play yourself. And I think there was an element of that yesterday. That late goal just hurts, though, doesn't it? I mean, the bit I was listening to, it sounded like we was on top and we really should have had the game won. And then for them to go down the other end in the last sort of minute and score, it still hurts this morning. So
they had a lot of like you said, they had a lot of men behind the ball, and they really in the second half there was very little attacking intent. And I know you sound like sour grapes when you come on and you talk like this after they've won, but they really didn't. And I've never seen a team so noticeably put so many stray passes out for throw-ins and goal kicks. The passing, especially in the first half by Notts County, was awful, and that's probably the worst bit of it, that we've come away with nothing against a team who really, for the size of the club and where they should be, were poor. And the winning, the goal that won it was down our side. We sit obviously at the Osmond end of the lower, and I don't remember quite what happened, but Crooksey was just over the halfway line, went to try and win the ball, and then they sort of won it, and it was played down our left side, and the guy was just basically stood on his own. I remember Coke trying to chase him back, but he was just stood on his own and basically squared the ball. And I'd need to see it again whether Macca looked like it was like a cross-come shot. I don't know whether it was on target, and he sort of palmed it, but it wasn't palmed wide. It seemed to be palmed almost into the middle of the sort of goal edge of the penalty area, and then the guy just stroked it home on the edge of the box. I'd have to watch it again to see whether there was any blame to apportion to Macca. But regardless of that, there was too much space on our left-hand side. We got absolutely done. You know, when somebody goes forward, somebody else needs to drop in and just fill in and cover, and it didn't happen, and it ultimately cost us a point.
Yeah, it sounds a real gut buster more than anything. It sounded like a point from both, and I spoke to the guys at.
Sorry, my dad was at the game and he said that they basically.
Is that how you going to hang on? No, we're not having that. Having you chatting and then you just belching away on the microphone and throwing up your recordings. What are you watching?
I was trying to get the highlights up from yesterday's game on the BT Sport app.
Okay.
He said that they basically came for a point, and and it was a smash and grab, and we were the better side. Interesting that Bruce says that their goal came down our left yet again. I'd love to know what the stats are on goals that have come down our left this season, because goals that I can remember off the top of my head, Maidstone, Barnet, yesterday. We've conceded a lot down the left. It's definitely our weak area.
Mike, you breathed then like you were gonna.
Yeah, I was going to say to him, what do you put that down to? Because I mean, looking at it, you sort of with Crooks, he sort of gets a lot of credit for being quite defensively strong. So what do you think the reason we're so weak down the left when Crooks is quite well reviewed down there?
Personally, and I'm loath to say this because I think he's been really good for us. I think it's having Clifton sort of playing in a 3 on the left, and he's not, and I don't think he's a naturally sort of wide left-sided player, and he also seems to have quite a free role. The games that I've seen, he's not just been on the left, like the Maidstone game, for example. He picked up the ball on the right and put in a great cross for Sousa over on the left. And I think it's that freedom perhaps gives us less stability on the left-hand side, whereas whilst Sousa's more attacking, he generally stays on the right-hand side of the pitch, and is therefore always there when it comes to like a first line of defence when we do lose possession, whereas Clifton might be caught out of position a bit. That's what I put it down to from the games I've seen. But like I say, it pains me to say that because I actually think Clifton's been one of our best players this season so far.
I'm no tactical genius, but as well, I think that if you were playing 4-4-2, then the wingers are going to be further. Sorry, the midfielders. Sorry, if you're playing a standard 4-4-2, the midfielders are going to be closer to the fullback probably. Whereas we've got three in the centre of midfield, haven't we? Hunt. I know there were some changes. Hunt, Coke, and Fox yesterday, and they're generally the three of them quite central. So if you've got the guy playing wide left on the front up front, they are sticking to the touchlines. The two wide men, they've got further to cover to get back and help out the fullback, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I think just while we're talking about that game, before we go, it would be remiss not to mention the injury to Ryan Sears, because I think he's been excellent since he came into the team, and it looked innocuous yesterday. He went for a challenge on the in front of the lower, sort of tackled somebody, and it looked like he just put his hand down to sort of when he was sliding in. And I don't know whether there was. I've not heard the interview after the game. I don't know whether he, or I did hear it actually. I don't think there was a mention of it, but I don't know whether he sprained his wrist or worse than that. But obviously the physio, who wasn't Dave Moore and who wasn't in shorts, came on, and yeah, he had to go off. So hopefully that's not broken or anything like that, because I think he's been really good and he's been growing in confidence and stature every game that he's played.
I mean, we've also got to mention the fact that Dave Moore isn't with the squad, so I assume he has the plague, because I don't think even Wild Buffalo will take that man down. So I hope he's doing all right and wish him well. I mean, we'll know if he's not doing well if he comes in joggers, or wearing a jumper. It's also worth mentioning as well. There was an announcement as well around abusive language and discriminatory behaviour from, I think it was the lower. I don't know. There's a few conjectures, sort of conjecting rumours circling around, and hopefully there's just no place for it in football. We don't really need to keep talking about it. I think we've given that sort of comments quite a bit of time, actually. But we're always happy if you think we need to have a better discussion on it. We'll always happily do so. But we don't want to brush over it. We want to acknowledge it, and hopefully the club will act accordingly as well with that too. It's also worth. What was the other thing I was going to mention around the game yesterday? Well, a sellout was pretty good as well. Very rare. Do you have a game booked out 3 days before? Hopefully those who saw us lose won't necessarily be taken too hard, and they'll be back again next week as well. Is there anything else you want to mention about yesterday's game? I think some people are struggling with the defeat on social media. Yeah, we've lost 2. It's the first time since March we've lost 2 in a row. I don't necessarily think it's going to happen. It's how we deal with it afterwards. Yeah, Bruce.
I dealt with it badly.
How badly are we talking? You weren't that bloke, were you?
I feel I need. This is my therapy session. The goal went in, and I've got some things that I just can't stand, and one of them is watching the away end celebrate at the end of a game. So my applause for the players and all that went out the window as I grabbed Maisie's hand and said, "Come on, we're going." we left. There was 3 minutes left, and if we'd have scored, I would have been delighted. But I was walking down Grimsby Road before the final whistle because I just can't. It just knocks a last-minute winner just knocks the stuffing out of you.
Why are you season tickets in the lower near the Osmond, man? Why are you such a glutton for punishment?
Yeah, I know. Well, normally you can't hear the away fans from there, but but yeah, yes. It was just. I just felt sick. But then, as I thought about it, and I chatted to somebody today, and I just said, look, really, we didn't lose 3 points, did we? We lost a point because, they were attacking. It was right near the end of the game. We've lost a point over. We were looking at the table. You struggle to get internet at Blundell Park these days. It's that busy. There's that much mobile data being used. But
These are first world problems now.
I did get a flash score up, and it was maybe a few minutes behind, but we were looking at the table and we were sitting second, I think, or joint top or something. And then I just sulked off and we left. And Maisie, to her credit, was, can't we just stay and watch the last couple of minutes? And I'm like, no, we're going. She's
dedicated. What can you say? You're raising a kid right if she's happy to stay for the last few minutes of a defeat at with Notts County. That's some good parenting skills right there.
She went to Wealdstone on Tuesday, and I did tell her how far it was.
It was it felt a long way from me, and I was only like 45 minutes up the road. It was a strange one. It's been a strange week. Let's look forward. We've got the cup to come. We're going to invite Shane in, who's a Kidderminster Harrier fan as well, and he'll take a little bit about what's going on with their season as well. Tom's done some actual work on Kiddie as well, and so we'll have a quick chat about what we can expect for the cup. Can we get back to winning ways, or is Bruce going to fall deeper into an alcoholic downward spiral as he's, it looks like he's cracking up. Yeah, there we go. Shane, pleasure to meet you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, evening, guys. Thanks for having us on. It's been interesting to talk to you, and I'll just start straight away. I think it was you said it, Alex, about Notts County. It was nice to see more than 10 men and the dog in the away end, and as the same for you guys coming to Agro on Saturday. It'll be nice to see you. I think it was 1,500, wasn't it, you brought last time you were at our place? It'll be nice to see support like that again.
We love an inflatable. I don't know if we're getting the inflatable sharks out this time. It's been in other words. Bruce, are you going?
I'm not. We joked about this earlier as well. I was with somebody at the cricket club earlier, and I just said, he said, "Are you going Saturday?" And I said, "No, I don't think so. Not at the minute." And then my mate texted and said, "Do you want to live Saturday?" And I'm like, I'm not sure.
So,
but
Bruce is going to be there Saturday.
that last trip to Kidderminster, we were knee deep in plastic shark by about 80 minutes when they'd all got flattened or squashed or whatever, and then you guys scored an equaliser, I think, right at the end for a 2-2 draw, which was another sickener. Thanks, Alex.
That's all right, mate.
I'll just mute for a minute and have a drink.
That's all right. So Shane, how's your season been going? There was an impressive win this week, wasn't there?
Yeah, we're spending more up in third place at the minute. Slightly depleted, admittedly, but one of the better teams in the league, and we beat them 4-0 after last Saturday's 5-1 drubbing of Bradford Park Avenue. So, sitting sixth at the minute, it's been better this season than it has been recently. So, hopefully, we can keep up going in that right direction in the league. But obviously, the cup, different ball game, isn't it?
Tom, what have you got on Kidderminster Harriers? The only thing I know is the food used to be good. It's no longer good. And everybody in lower league football is upset about that.
Well, I think the main thing to note of their season so far is that they're scoring quite a lot of goals. They've scored 22 goals in 11 games in the league, which is pretty good going. And they've only lost once in October, which was right at the beginning of October, and they've played quite a few games. They've had a couple of Tuesday night games in October. So they're going to be full of confidence on Saturday when they play us. And they've got one. Ashley Hemmings has got 6 goals. Sam Austin 5. Amari Sterling James on 4. So they've got players who are scoring a good, or have got a good goals to games ratio. So I expect them to be fancying their chances at the weekend, especially with us having lost 2 on the trot.
I've got Australian Shane now.
Shane won.
He spun it there, didn't he? He spun it well.
He spun it. Are you back now, Shane? Oh, it's like connecting with Bazza.
Sorry, what's going on here?
That's all right. Maybe it's our internet. Maybe we need to pay for a little bit more to have more than 4 on. how is everything going? Who do we need to look out for, and who are the men that we expect to do us some damage? And what's the general mood around the fan base about the draw? I'm sure we were such an exciting prospect to be playing on a Saturday.
Well, I'm not going to lie, it was a bit of a disappointing draw, as we
How
probably
rude.
are for you as well. First round, you're thinking of, your Sunderlands and your Sheffield Wednesdays and what have you. And for yourselves, you'd probably have preferred an AFC Sudbury over a top 6 Step 2 side. But here we are. In terms of danger men, top scorer in all competitions, Ashley Hemmings, former Wolves youth product. He's a tricky winger. He'll get at the fullbacks. Same with Amari Sterling James. He's got 4. And there's Sam Austin who plays in the number 10 role. He's got 5. Geraldo Bejrami, he's not a name you could have heard of, but he's a top-class centre-half at this level. Unfortunately for us, he got sent off for a second yellow on that Tuesday night game at Chorley last week. So we'll have to probably draft in the veteran Keith Lowe to go up against McAtee or Linnell John Lewis, or maybe even one of the backup brigade, depending on how Paul Hurst wants to play it, really.
I am desperately trying to look for former Town players. What were you going to say?
I think it will be. I think it will be interesting to see whether we go a little bit stronger than we did last time. You would expect us to, treat them with a little bit more respect, with them being only a league below us. And I think he said, didn't he, that he wishes there was a league game this week because it gives him a chance to get things back on track. And I actually feel that a break of a couple of weeks in the league, as long as we don't lose on Saturday, could do us good, because gives the chance for the lads that have had COVID to get themselves fit, gives Ryan Taylor the chance to get fit, and a little bit of time to perhaps work on some magic on the training ground. But can you just, Shane, obviously you were in the league in the early noughties, weren't you, for a few seasons? Where do you think the club's natural level is? Is it the conference? Is it National League North now? Where do you think? Because how did you get to the league and that sort of thing? How did that come about? Obviously, without saying promoted, was it sort of a good crop or some investment or what happened?
Well, we got promoted. I think it was 99-2000, so slightly before my time of getting down there. Well, from what I understand, there was a good bit of backing from the chairman at the time, Lionel Newton. Of course, Jan Mole, with the Liverpool legend, came in to manage the side eventually. Obviously went down in the 04-05 season, which is when I started getting to a few games. Well, in terms of the natural level,
I'm denouncing a pattern.
History, if you look at our history, it probably is a Step 1 conference side, but at the minute, we've been down here at Step 2 for, I think it's our 6th season now. So we've got to be humble about it and say our natural level is where we are at the minute, which is, unfortunately for us, the National League North and Step 2.
What differences have you noticed in that league? I mean, I would like to think we would never have to worry about it, but I never thought I'd have to worry about the conference. But there we go. What is the level like? What are you expecting? Spennymoor Town, to me, didn't they play Grimsby Borough like 10 years ago, Bruce, Tom? I'm not sure if that name would ring a bell with you guys, but what's the level like down there? Is it more physical? Is it slower? Is it improving?
I'd say the common consensus for Step 2 is that the National South is more technical and the National North is more meaty and physical. But to be honest, you look at some of the teams at this level, Fylde, who we know well, Brackley, who is a perennial 3rd, 4th place every year. I call them the National League North Arsenal. There's death, taxes, and Brackley will be top 4. You've got Gateshead, you've obviously York City, Darlington, Chester, Hereford, ourselves. I mean, these are big clubs. Boston as well, yeah.
Sorry, Tom will get upset about that if you don't know.
No, but they say that the conference is an ex-football league team, sort of burial ground. Well, the Conference North's got probably half a dozen.
Yeah, it's the conference is the Football League 2 burial ground, then the North's probably the burial ground for some of the conference sides. I mean, you said, Alex, you never thought you'd have to worry about the conference. 10 years ago, I never thought we'd have to worry about the National North. It was full of teams like Vauxhall Motors at the time and Wealdstone. Now, you look at it now, and it's York City, it's Chester, it's Boston, it's Hereford, it's Darlington. It's crazy. It's the only way you can put it. It's just crazy.
What are you hoping for? Yeah.
There's not a lot of... Well, it's a win, isn't it? At the end of the day, you guys want to win it. We want to win it. There's no... A replay doesn't really help anybody, does it? Especially at this time of the year. A long trip to us up to Grimsby on a Tuesday night, it's not going to be ideal. And, you guys mentioned about a break for the league might do you well, but if you got to play twice in 3 days, it almost defeats the object, doesn't it? So if we can get the game done either way, 90 minutes, preferably with a home win, with all due respect, it'll be. I think that'll be a good outcome. Obviously,
absolutely. Mike, what were you going to say?
Yeah, Shane. So, not knowing as much as I should about Kidderminster, could you tell us a little bit about sort of what your guys' expectations is this season, what you're aiming for, and sort of what's your style of play? How do you set up? How do you sort of play?
There we go, fat fingers. So, style of play, we play it on the floor. It's the only way to put it. We'll set up with a 4-2-3-1, and we will look to get it wide. Attacking fullbacks, Caleb Richards, who we signed on a free from Norwich after a good loan spell last year. Probably one of our main attacking threats, linking up with Hemmings and Sterling James. But we will try and play the right way, in air quotes, getting the ball down, getting it wide, and trying to put a lot of pressure on the back line, which, two sides. I watched your game against Bromsgrove and was mightily impressed. It should be a real good game. But in terms of expectations, that's a weird one because we had the COVID season last season. We were doing well there. Well, it was the first time in 2 or 3 years where we looked like we were actually going to do something. Now, go back to the last completed season we had. There were times where I was actually contemplating we might be going down because financially we were up the creek without the paddle, as they say. It was looking iffy at times, but we've had new owners come in now. They've put a little bit of money just to steady the ship, and we're hopefully now in the right direction. Personally, though, I'd have said top 8, top 10 would have been good. Let's position ourselves as dark horses for the playoffs, but start of the season, we've done well. Yeah, I think it was Tom, you said the 3 games we've lost this season. There are going to be 3 of the sides who are going to be in that top 5 in Brackley, Fylde and Gateshead. So if we use that as a barometer, if we're up in that top 8, I think we'll be doing quite well.
Has anyone got a question for Shane before we allow him to leave and not have to listen to us talk about defeats on the trot? Good. Shane, it's a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday. We hope it's a miserable one for you, but good luck with the rest of the season, apart from 3 p.m. this week.
Lovely, and that feeling's mutual, gentlemen. Thanks ever so much for having me on. It's been a
Cheers, Shane.
Cheers.
No pleasure. Thanks, mate. So, gentlemen, it's all going. It's a cup game is back. We've got an opportunity here. Team seems to be coming back together. From what I know, COVID players will be back in training this week. Joel Grant is ready and wearing and is back receiving. He's back doing full training as well and may well be in contention. Tom, Sean Scannell's going to be available at some point very soon. He is ready and raring to go. He's going to be the answer to our striker needs and our creating of chances. You must be really looking forward to him getting on the pitch and finally showing what he's got.
Isn't he a midfielder?
I don't know. I've never seen him play.
And I think he plays across either side and up front as well.
He can play anywhere at this level, anywhere.
When he plays.
He's going to be amazing. You think former Blackpool? He's a former Blackpool player, isn't he? I don't know. Anyway, he's going to ruin them. And there we go. I mean, there's going to be quite a few options that are available to us. Good questions though when we're talking about Kidderminster and such. Do you think Paul Hurst? We kind of touched on it. Do you think he's going to be really looking at, making the same number of changes he did at Bromsgrove? Or do you think he's going to try and use this as an opportunity? Tom, we know how seriously he takes the FA Trophy. Do you think it'll be the same in the FA Cup and we'll expect to see a relatively strong team to go out?
Yeah, I think he's made it fairly public that he'd quite like a cup run, hasn't he? So I expect a fairly strong team. As we've already spoken about, they're in good form. They score a lot of goals. They'll fancy their chances with us having lost 2 games on the trot. So I think it'd be a much tougher tie now than when the draw was initially made. I think when the draw was initially made, they weren't in brilliant form and we were flying. I think everyone thought, oh yeah, this is in the bag, round 2, here we come. Whereas now you're looking at it thinking, fucking hell, this is, on the tin pot klaxometer, this is a 7.
I think you're probably right, Thomas. Just thinking and listening to what you're saying there, and the question that I talked about earlier about how strong a team. He won't want to lose 3 on the spin. He wants a cup run. Maybe with a week's rest, we're going to see a pretty strong lineup. This is a chance for this team to get back to winning ways, isn't it? As well.
It's almost like you've almost got an opportunity with the players here. Go, look, you could have had a week off here if you'd got a couple of points from this week. Now you got to get out in the cup and show what they do, because the lads beforehand showed exactly what they were made of when they dismissed Bromsgrove. I mean, the question is, if we're lucky enough to get out of this round and into the second round proper, are we going to get a draw away from the West Midlands, or do you think we'll be back there? Solihull Moors, somewhere like that, will be coming up. Never leaving. We might even have to change the semi-finals at Villa Park, like the good old days.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I think just going back to what you're talking about, I think if we were going into that game not on the back of 2 defeats, I think you might have seen something a little bit similar to Bromsgrove. I think the fact that we've had 2 defeats, he wants to cup run, then he'll play a pretty strong side to try and get us back to winning ways.
If we go through, Alex, I just want a tie that's less than an away game that's less than 2.5 hours away. Even Manchester's been. Yeah, even Manchester. I'm just waiting for the trophy draw now. See where we get in the trophy. But yeah, please, just somewhere that's not 2.5 hours away.
Trophy draws not till, well, we don't come in till December.
No, we come in the 3rd round, don't we?
Yeah, which is in December.
Brilliant. Alex, you're a bit quiet there, mate.
Is that better? Oh. I fixed it.
Mike, are you any good at running podcasts?
Yeah.
No, I'm not good at anything, mate.
So, I mean, is it, for those who are panicking, for those who are worried, are we all, first and foremost, so let's sort of raise the heart levels a bit more. Should we be looking for another striker? Paul Hurst has said he said no to a couple. Tom, you don't have to answer it. It's fine. But
no, I want to answer this one, because this is like a question that gets asked every week on.
Do you think? I'm going to ask the question before he answers it. Do you think the most recent run of results have hastened the look for it? And do you think it could effectively negatively affect the team because it will pressure Paul Hurst to bringing in someone he wasn't necessarily keen on doing? He mentioned a couple of weeks ago, or this week actually, that he'd seen a couple of players, but he wasn't for his liking. Tom, go.
I think Paul Hurst has answered this question multiple times. Yes, we're in the market for a striker. no, we're not going to bring anybody in. He's going to bring in the player that he feels right. I think if anybody needs a reference point, it was the guy who used to play for York and Fleetwood, Richard Brodie. They brought him in fairly hastily, obviously thinking he'd banged in loads of goals at conference level. And then he obviously turned out to be really disruptive for the dressing room. And he's had his fingers burnt. And yeah, that's exactly what
Bogle.
Bruce has put.
I just saw a B and an O.
I think it's the discussion is pointless, really. Hurst has made it very clear that he would like to bring someone in, but he's also made it very clear he's not just going to bring anybody in, and we should just be patient. As I keep having to say, we're still second. We're only a point off the top of the league. We've won 9 games out of 14. We've scored 27 goals, which is nearly 2 goals a game. We're doing pretty well. Everybody just needs to sit down and have a pint.
Here ends the party political broadcast from the Tom Sargent party.
Look how that went last year.
Yeah, exactly. Gonna stay up, aren't we, Tom? No problem. Don't worry about it.
It was me told to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Mike was the one in the right. He could see the writing on the wall. You're the person there with Greta Thunberg going, calm down, love, have a pint. There's nothing wrong with the sea. Just get some galoshes.
Alex, can I just come in with a counter to Tom's theory?
Oh, hang on. Bruce is going to go too far the other way now. What was it?
No, I don't think it's a crisis.
Get used to go to Kidderminster.
But
I didn't say it was a crisis.
No. I was just saying I don't think it's a crisis. You were saying that we're all right.
I think a fuffle.
If you are serious about staying at the top of this league, you've got to amass a silly amount of points. And in my opinion, we can't afford to sit and be having this conversation in 3 weeks with 1 win from 4 or 5 games behind us and say, Paul Hurst doesn't want to bring the wrong person in. There has to come a point where we have to bring somebody in to produce the goods on the pitch. And I'm not saying we won't, and hopefully, we'll get a good result, good performance Saturday. People will be back and fit and stuff. But this run of defeats and not scoring doesn't want to go on for 3, 4, 5 games, or else you're going to be off the pace. I'll put it out there now that I don't think Wrexham will win this league this season because I think they're already too far behind.
Yeah,
I'll stand by that. Sorry, Tom's waving. Let me just.
Don't worry, I'm going to speak before Tom speaks. The question I was going to ask is: we're talking so much about strikers. The conversation that everybody's brought up on this conversation in the podcast this week is we're not creating chances. Are we looking at the wrong areas? Is that the area that needs to be looked at? If we're not creating chances, then what's the point in having a striker? I guess there's no one there to put away, and that's what Lenny's looking more and more isolated up front. Here he comes, and that's why I think Bogle should be back.
I just think the combination we've got up front at the minute just doesn't look right at the moment, and that's not to say that it won't click, but we just don't look as fluent as we did previously. And that's my final parting gesture on the
listeners. What Tom is going to do now is he's going to read out all the Town players who scored goals and then talk about we don't need to create chances because we are creating them. But the question is, what was I going to say? Actually, Tom, go for your bit. Go on, get your £1.50 non-league paper out.
So I just wanted to sort of reply to Bruce's comments there. I think in years gone by, he's probably right. You did need to amass a colossal amount of points to get out of the division. But this is probably the first time in arguably the history of the conference where there's 4 or 5 teams that can genuinely win the league. Like you've got us, Wrexham, Notts County, Chesterfield,
Zip.
The money that Stockport was spending at the beginning of the season, you probably would have put them in that bracket and the size of the club. And then you've got teams like sort of, up and coming teams like Bromley and Boreham Wood who are really ambitious. Whereas in previous years, when, like, say, Mansfield and who else won the league? Fleetwood. When they won the league, they had like huge budgets compared to everybody else, and there was nobody really who could challenge them. And then you go back further into the history of the conference; it's always only been between maybe one or two clubs. So I think, and if you look at our record against teams that are supposed favourites so far this season, we've beat Wrexham, we drew with Stockport, and then we lost to Notts County. So we've got a mixed record against teams that are favourites for the title already. And I think that's being reflected across the league. Yesterday, Dagenham and Redbridge drew against Chesterfield. So I don't think it is going to be like a huge 100 points total that wins the league this season. And then further to that, we've lost 2 games on the trot. We're not like in the middle of a crisis, and we've got a break in the cup on Saturday, and then I can't remember who our next game is against after that. But it's hardly like we're facing Aldershot. Yeah, exactly. So we're playing Aldershot, who are down the bottom. It's hardly like we're facing the possibility of losing 4 games on the trot, or 5 or 6 games on the trot. We're not.
I can't believe you're suggesting it.
Well, we're not like staring a crisis in the face, are we? Like,
I can't believe Tom said we could lose 5 on the trot. That negativity.
We need to just sort of relax. Yesterday we lost 1-0. It was a smash and grab, but we lost 1-0 to one of the teams that
turn it upside down, Bruce.
Favourites for the title.
What were you going to say? Bruce, you beat Mike to the punch. What were you going to say on the retort?
No, that was partly what Tom's saying is my point. I mean, he's saying we're not going to, but we just need to make sure that this doesn't become a run of 3, 4, 5 games that are fruitless. And it's if we're sat here this time, maybe not next week because it's not league points, but the week after we're at Aldershot, aren't we? And then, like you say, then we've got the Friday night game against Southend. And then I think the following Saturday we're at home to Boreham Wood.
No, it's Solihull away.
We're not. Sorry.
No. Oh, West Midlands again. Yeah.
Oh, Solihull on the Tuesday. Yeah, I'm planning on going to that one because I've not been there. But yeah, we just need to be careful and cautious that it doesn't become that run, because then it does become a problem, and we need to try and nip it in the bud before it becomes a problem. Was my point really.
And that's what the problem is with this league. It's such a we've talked about it time and time again. There is one automatic promotion spot, and you tend to have to buy. I'm buying into the idea with Tom that there's a lot of teams that have got similar abilities that are going to take points off one another, but you usually have to get a silly amount of points before you to even stand a chance. And then after that, you're into the playoffs, and that's where madness lies. And I agree with both of you. I guess for those who are panicking, what can you say, Mike, to them? I'm very much of the thought process that, look, we were a depleted team. I spoke on the Notts County podcast, said this is a great time to play us because we're trying to find a different way of playing from what had been really successful from us to begin with. And as such, you've got an opportunity. And they didn't take advantage of it. They got a really fortunate goal at the very end of the game where sort of chaos was reigning and they could go either way. It's Wealdstone, I thought, was a bit of a disappointment. And I was disappointed with the lack of a response. But from Bruce, it was a pretty good performance. So I don't think there's necessarily too much to worry about. I think we'll beat Kidderminster. I think Paul Hurst will find a guy in January that he likes and wants to bring in up front. I think there'll be a couple of additions. The owner said it's there if he needs it. And I don't think there's another man in football I would trust more to bring in the right players than Paul Hurst. I mean, for fuck's sake, would you want Ian Holloway here at the moment, just bringing in any fucker that stops walking in Bristol? He goes, do you want a loan deal? Because, I mean, as long as it's Riley Tower, I guess.
He's still living up here, apparently.
Well, he was quite slow to leave, wasn't he?
You can have him back.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Really appreciated. Mike, what would you say? Sorry, I asked you a question, then I went on my own monologue. So those who are panicking, what would you say? Or should they be panicking? And I'm going crazy.
No, I don't think they should be. I mean, I agree with Tom. I think, look, everybody needs to just calm down a little bit. Losing 2 games or sort of being top of the league did not make us the best team in the league. Losing 2 games does not make us a bad team. It's a long season in a tough league, and it's going to happen. So I think everybody just needs to be a little bit careful. Now, I can only really go from Wealdstone because I didn't see County. But just linking back into sort of the striking issue, it's obvious Paul Hurst wants a different option that offers him something different. And he's going to get that. When that is open, it's just when whoever he wants turns up. But at the Wealdstone game, if we'd played somebody else up front, I don't really think it would have changed much. You know, I don't really think Lenny had much service. He was quite isolated, didn't really have a chance. So I think sometimes we have to be a little bit careful of, we like to find somebody in the team that we can vent our criticism at. And at the minute, it just looks like it's Lenny. And when you actually analyse Tuesday, did he really do anything wrong? So I think we should just calm down a bit. We've got a nice little break now. We can sort of try and get back into the swing of things against Kidderminster. And look, we're going to lose games along the way. We're going to lose 2 games in a row along the way. But it's our first season down here. We've had however many changes to our squad, and we've started the season really well. So it's all positive.
Bruce.
What I will say is that what we've got, obviously, we've got come the next game, we've got options available to us that we've not had for a couple of games, and that's not a digger or
Joel
criticism
Grant,
of
Sean
Lenny.
Scannell.
Exactly. Well, Taylor's available again, isn't he? And he's been the surprise package for me of the season. The way that he's performed, having seen quite a lot of the team, and obviously he did work well with McAtee, who he's not going to be playing with for a few weeks. But it'll be interesting to see whether he gets a start and gets the nod again. And like I say, what I'm saying, Mike, is not a criticism of Lenny in any shape or form. We just haven't found a combination in the last couple of games that looks like it's going to score goals, whether that be from the wide men, the centre forward, anybody. We haven't looked like we're going to score one or two goals, let alone 3 or 4 in the last couple of games. But like I say, like you guys have said, fingers crossed. It is what it is. But we need to make sure that we pick up 3 points in the next league game, and hopefully we go through in the cup.
Yeah, I think I don't think there's a better place to end it, but there. We need to have a little bit more of a discussion next week as well about the women's team. Obviously beat Cleethorpes 8-0 today. GTFC Academy, they unfortunately lost to Crewe in the FA Youth Cup, but they're doing exceptionally well. They're top of their league as well. Everything around us is doing pretty well. Let's hope we're going to still see absolute droves of fans in, and I hope a lot of you will make your way down to Kidderminster and enjoy it. Anybody got anything to add before we go? If not, I will call it a day. Good. Let's get on. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Mike, thank you. Bruce and Tom. We shall all see you soon. Have a good day. Bye.
Open wide for some soccer!